Before we start the video, share in the comments what was your favorite toy when you were a kid. Well, if I lived in 1960, this would be my favorite toy.
A new thing, it's a fun thing, it's a swing wing.
It's a what?
Though this rather funny thing has one side effect. Let's make one thing clear right away. Many toys, or even games of the past, seem absurd and simply unsafe today, but while some weird stuff just exists, there's something called swing wing. This toy works like a hula hoop, only you wear it on your head, and it's not round. I know it sounds like utter nonsense, but in 1965, Transogram Games thought it was a great idea to sell a hat with ribbons attached to it. The children were expected to twirl their head or body back and forth to unwind these ribbons. And the toy really became popular. I'm sure there wasn't much entertainment to choose from in the 60s, so shaking your head seemed exciting enough. But evolution didn't expect we would have fun like that, and swing wing began to cause a cerebral hemorrhage. As a result, a weird toy for kids killed dozens of people. Just think about it. A toy. Only the intervention of the FBI, which shut down the production of the swing wing, prevented further tragedies. By the way, they say all the evidence was also destroyed, except for a couple of commercials. But this doesn't seem to be true. Like if someone said they sold a toy lab set to educate kids about nuclear energy. It'd also come with samples of uranium ore. What are you talking about, Steve? What do you mean, check the script? They were really selling this? In 1950, the Gilbert U-238 Atomic Energy Laboratory set was created by an American athlete, magician, toy manufacturer, businessman, essentially Tony Stark of the time, Alfred Carlton Gilbert. He decided that children who would observe nuclear and chemical reactions would become interested in science and become scientists in the future. Perhaps it really was the case, especially since the ad claimed that none of the materials could be dangerous. But uranium ore? It can cause serious consequences for health, like liver or bone cancer, not to mention the fact that ingesting uranium is even more dangerous than simple exposure to it. These are the toys intended for kids who, in their pursuit of science, well, let's say, can go a little further than necessary. In 2006, Radar magazine named the lab set one of the 10 most dangerous toys of all time. Good thing it didn't have time to become too popular. The set was too expensive. I think that today such toys would appeal to the market, but hardly anyone would dare to sell toys like that. On the other hand, lawn darts are still legal. Have you seen these? Big darts that are about 12 inches long and targets to play somewhere outside. The target is a ring on the ground that you need to hit. It's quite simple. Except that these darts have metal tips. Back in 1970, they were recognized as dangerous. It took a long judicial process to completely ban them, and then children started dying from lawn darts. Hitting the head, the metal tip simply pierced the skull and caused extensive brain damage, resulting in coma or death. After lawn darts caused thousands of injuries and killed at least 3 children, these toys were banned from sale in the US and Canada. But you can still buy them in Europe. You have to admit, it's weird. I mean, it's one thing to have old toys that were around before people realized that they could be dangerous. It's a different matter to sell them today. And then I thought, what about toys still used today? All of us certainly had at least one of these inherited from our parents or purchased at a flea market. Such toys are cheaper, plus it's less dangerous for the environment. But not for the kids. According to research conducted back in 2018, toys from the 70s and 80s can contain dangerous elements. Some of them are toxic even in small amounts. And it's enough for a child just to put an old toy in their mouth to have some serious consequences. Toys were simply not checked for that before, and all these plastic figurines, construction sets, and decorations turned out to be simply toxic. Even Lego. It took mankind quite a long time to realize they need to do something about this. From what Steve found, there were no modern toy safety standards until the early 2000s. Can you imagine how many health issues children got over the years before adults figured out what's what? Today, all toys intended for children aged 12 and under must be tested by experts and certified. Has this stopped the production of dangerous toys? Well, in some countries. Does this mean there are no more dangerous toys? Well, people have learned to make them themselves. Now I'll show you some examples, and you'll see how even the most harmless toys can turn into a real health hazard. Ever heard of the Crocodile dentist game? With a big-headed plastic crocodile and teeth you can press on, if you press on a sick tooth, the crocodile will close its mouth, and the one who pressed it will lose. Of course, plastic teeth can't hurt you. That's why some people change them for blades. Don't ask me why. Maybe to spice the game up? I don't know. But just in case, I'll warn you, don't try to do something like that. Seriously, it'll result in injury. They managed to turn even such a cute thing as a squirt gun into a dangerous weapon. Yes, they can actually be converted to flamethrowers. I have no idea what could go wrong, especially since it's just thin plastic. And fire! God, what are these guys thinking about? But these toys are just modifications of existing ones which are created by certain, well, let's say amateurs. Meanwhile, fidget spinners with blades were actually sold on eBay. Remember fidget spinners? A few years ago, everyone was crazy about them, and there were a lot of customized versions, apparently including the one with blades. The toys were tested, and it turned out they can actually damage human skin, not to mention the eyes. Yes, it took some effort from the scientists, but hey, we all know how intense children's games can be. The good news is that spinners with blades were taken off the platform immediately. The bad news is that adults deliberately continue to use children's toys for the wrong purposes. You may have seen the Mattel IMME toy, a small texting device. It's essentially a children's toy with cheap antennas and open-source hardware, which has been discontinued for a long time. Turns out you can use it to easily open garage doors. Of course, I'm not talking about those garages locked with a key. I'm talking about combination locks and remote control. Again, there's good news. The person who discovered this helped fix the security issue. What, that doesn't sound good? What about toys that save lives? Not even toys, but silly string. A completely useless thing at first glance. Well, what's it good for? Cheering up people at a party? Or finding tripwires around bombs. U.S. troops do use this stuff before entering a building. Plastic goo can be propelled in different directions at a distance of more than 10 feet. If it just falls to the ground or the floor, you're good to go. If it hangs in the air, it means there's danger ahead. It's almost impossible to see the tripwires without the strings, and they're light enough not to trigger the explosion. Well, what can I say? The military are always ready to improvise. But back to dangerous toys. I know, you came here for them. Magnetic building sets for kids. I won't lie, they can be quite interesting even for adults. But adults will hardly want to swallow a magnet just because it's, I don't know, cool? In the 2000s, several million magnetic sets were recalled after 27 serious intestinal injuries and one death of a child who swallowed parts of a magnetic building set. It's because magnets, well, attract inside the human body. This property becomes deadly. Doctors had to do at least 1,500 surgeries to remove the magnets, and not all children were small. Even some 10-year-olds swallowed the pieces. And how do you like a kit where you pour a liquid chemical into the molds of bug-like creatures, then heat them on a small electric oven to about 390 degrees Fahrenheit? What a great idea! Just imagine the smell. There were tons of sets with a variety of themes, from leaves, dragons, and false teeth to insects. Even though all this may sound creepy, Thingmaker was popular. It was banned only when people realized that heating a strange chemical liquid and then inhaling its vapors was not very good for health. Although if you think about it, it was something like the first home 3D printer. The 60s were tough. But that's not all. In the 40s, they released a pistol that shot ping pong balls with such force that some American states still consider it an actual firearm. The ball flew out of the gun, propelled by a chemical reaction of calcium carbide with water. The result is many sparks that could easily burn a kid's hand. Add to this the fact that these pistols often exploded. Many are lucky they didn't just die during a simple game. However, both the weirdest and scariest story has to do with hammocks. I was literally terrified when I learned that a mini hammock released in the 80s caused the death of 17 children. The hammocks made from lightweight nylon mesh cost just $3.99 a piece and got kids trapped between the nylon ropes, and they suffocated. Only one child survived, and those who died were between 5 and 17 years old. The $4 hammock that proved to be lethal. A hammock, damn it! Luckily, a toy based on the Son of Flubber movie, you probably didn't see it, but you saw the 1997 remake featuring Robin Williams. Well, this toy, which looks like modern slimes, didn't kill anyone. But after Flubber hit the shelves in early 1963, there were at least 1,600 reports of rashes and sore throats, all of which were tied either to the product itself or to knockoffs from other companies. As a result, Flubber had to be discontinued and all toys recalled. But there was an unexpected issue. It turned out to be impossible to dispose of them. Tons of toxic green goo you can't get rid of. The toys didn't sink, they produced acrid black smoke when you tried to burn them. In the end, according to rumors, Flubber material was buried and a parking lot was built on top. And I hope it'll never get out of there. See you later.